50 years ago, Lassa fever was discovered for the first time in Nigeria. Half a century later, what exactly do we know about this deadly virus? How much work has been done to close the existing knowledge gaps? Are there hopes of a preventive vaccine for Lassa virus? What exactly do we really know about the mastomys rodents as hosts of Lassa virus? These were part of the agenda for the Lassa Fever at 50 conference held on January 16 and 17, 2019 at the Transcorp Hilton, Abuja. My name is Abdul Fattah Otori and this is NCDC Situation Room. I'm glad you could join us.
Wetin be this Lassa fever wey dey hear up and down so?
This na disease wey Lassa fever virus dey cause. E dey happen when person touch another person or rat wey carry this virus, poo-poo, wee-wee, spit or even blood.
How fit take know person wey carry Lassa fever sef?
The sign dey show 2 to 21 days after person touch another person or rat wey carry this virus. Dem fit dey catch cold or weak or get body pain or sore throat or dey vomit plus purge or cough or make their body no dey fit stay one place or make faces swell up or make blood dey comot from any part of the body. Person wey get Lassa fever fit be like say na any other disease.
How we fit take stop this Lassa fever?
No near rat, dead or alive. Keep your house plus area clean. Store water plus food where rat no go reach am. No spread food for road or even open place. Dey careful with the person wey get Lassa fever or the one wey Lassa fever kill. Make sure say you follow wetin government talk before you bury am.
Dem fit treat this Lassa fever?
E better make you treat am early immediately you notice am. So no waste time go the hospital wey dey near you immediately you begin get the sign.
This message na with Federal Ministry of Health, the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, World Bank Ready Say Project, and UNICEF. Come una domoto.
It's another edition of NCDC Situation Room, and thank you very much for tuning in. A lot of our discussions today will center on the proceedings at the Lassa at 50 conference venue, where in different sessions, 11 speakers presented their addresses. Over 700 people registered, 302 abstracts were received, 160 oral and poster presentations were carried out. There were exhibitions. Questions were asked to elicit answers to proffer solution to the disease that has ravaged the country for 5 decades. The conference commenced with a keynote presentation on Nigeria's 2018 Lassa fever outbreak and lessons for the future, presented by Mrs. Elsie Ilori, Technical Team Lead, National Lassa Fever Working Group, Nigeria. She described the role played by NCDC and the Technical Working Group on Lassa fever, which includes case management and surveillance.
Our approach was actually a community-centered approach. It was multi-sectoral, multidisciplinary, had a One Health approach with stakeholders from Ministry of Agri and Environment, and we had a lot of high-level advocacy with political buy-in. We have a state that actually supported a federal institution for the management of Lassa fever. We also supported the state to set up their emergency operation centers with weekly communication in the states. We deployed around the rapid response team and gave on-site technical support to 8 states. Now for case management, it was a lot of challenge for case management. We actually designed designated treatment centers. We advised states to designate treatment centers. But for states that could not, we gave them a referral flow chart where they could refer their patient to the nearest treatment center. We did on-the-job training for case management and IPC treatment in some selected treatment centers that had issues. We identified safe burial teams in states and at the treatment centers and developed a safe burial flow chart for intra and interstate corpse management. We have a Connect Center at the NCTC where the public call and give us information. From there, we take it over and escalate to the next level.
Another plenary speaker at the conference was Dr. Sylvester Okogbeni, the Chief Medical Director of the Irua Specialist Hospital. Dr. Okogbeni told the gathering the role played by Irua Specialist Hospital in the fight against Lassa fever. He said the institution was designated a Center of Excellence for Lassa and has been in the forefront of the response against the disease.
For several decades, the control of Lassa fever has been neglected. Therefore, for many decades, because of this neglect, it continued to cause morbidities and mortalities, many times undiagnosed, many times unchallenged. WHO has recommended the establishment of centers of excellence in affected regions, but only a few exist in West Africa. The Lassa Fever Center in Kenema and the Irua Specialist Teaching Hospital in Nigeria. More recently, we have had 2 centers spring up in Nigeria, the Federal Medical Center Owo and the Federal Teaching Hospital at Abakaliki. In 1984, there was the Ihimudumu Ekpoma epidemic. That was the one that announced that Lassa fever was endemic in Ekpoma and Irua environs. And after that, 1984, there's been frequent outbreaks year in and year out. In 1993, the Irua Specialist Teaching Hospital was established as a normal teaching hospital to cater for the students of the Ambrose Ali University. But then they noticed that they get a lot of patients with fever, bleeding, and seizures. That made them suspect that there was a hemorrhagic fever. And when you combine that with the 1984 epidemic, the suspicion was really high. And after then, we began to send samples to Germany, to South Africa, and then the diagnoses were coming. This is Lassa fever. In 2002, the federal government designated the hospital a center of excellence for Lassa fever management and control. The philosophy of the institute at creation was clear. We wanted to build indigenous capacity for diagnosis, for case management, for research and control. We wanted it to be indigenous. And the reason was clear. When you have indigenous capacity, then your response in epidemic is usually very early, and that reduces mortality. Many times when there are repeated outbreaks, people will ask you, when will this Lassa fever go? I will say, until we have a very good vaccine, then we can be sure that the problem of Lassa fever will go down.
In his remark, the Chief Executive Officer of the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovation, CEPI, Dr. Richard Hatchett, gave a hint for the possibility of Lassa fever vaccine in the nearest future.
Lassa fever is an endemic disease in West Africa. It recurs annually. The number of cases we've seen increasing over the last several years. It's actually of the diseases for which WHO has produced target product profiles for vaccines. It is a disease that the WHO estimates where we could have a vaccine for prophylaxis. We need to be developing vaccines that could be used in a prophylactic context. We have 5 vaccines that we're currently supporting. We have a 6th that we hope we'll be bringing on. They all are based on the Josiah strain, which is a Lassa strain that was isolated in Liberia, I believe. It's a type 4 Lassa virus. You heard about the type 1, type 2, type 3 viruses here in Nigeria. It's going to be critically important to demonstrate that vaccines based on the Josiah strain can provide cross-protection to the Lassa viruses circulating here in Nigeria. We do have some early data to suggest that, in fact, that is the case, which is good. But because of the genetic diversity of Lassa as a pathogen, we need to be very mindful of making sure that we're developing vaccines that can be used where Lassa circulates and that can be used against the strains that are circulating. We also want to make sure that we have vaccines that are appropriate for use, particularly in an outbreak context.
Dr. Richard Hatchett there, a CEO, Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovation, CEPI. He was speaking on CEPI's role in the opportunity and responsibility for clinical trials in Africa. Well, before we bring you more on the conference, let's find out what Chief Adisa and his friend Malam Usman have been up to in our drama segment. Stay with us.
Aha, Chief Adisa, did you enjoy that meeting with the elders?
Enjoying the meeting is an understatement, Usman.
No?
It was everything good, revealing and reassuring that we have a system in place to defeat Lassa fever.
That's even me, I felt the same. But wait. Dr. Chuku, you have been quiet all the while we're talking here. Eh? Why are you looking at Chief Adisa as if what he's saying is not making sense? Or is he representing what we discussed?
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm rather highly impressed that he could encapsulate the proceedings of the meeting in such smart and definitive manner. Chief, I bow for you. I bow for you.
Dokita, why are you bowing for me? Well, I will take it as a compliment, even though I cannot say for sure if you are not being mischievous.
How about Chief Adisa? No. It's not. I don't think that Dr. Chukwu would engage in anything mischievous as far as this case is concerned. Come to think of it, he was about the happiest man when he saw us at the venue at the meeting.
Yes, Malam Usman. That is a true representation of my position in this community. I meant no evil at all, Chief.
Dokita. See you. I was just joking.
Oh.
I was joking. Look, who does not know your honest desire for the good of this community?
Hey, Chief Adisa, I will say it is like my friend has joined these small boys taking crop serious. And when they take this, they start to talk anyhow. I'm telling you.
No. Usman, that can never happen. Amy, I am too educated and knowledgeable about the severe consequences of such practices.
Oh, well. Well, that is a story for another day. Now, Malam Usman, what aspect of the conference speaks to your heart the most?
This is a doctor. You confuse me sometimes. So. You told me you are a doctor.
Oh, yes.
Not a journalist asking questions up and down anyhow. Okay, but anyway, I can still answer your question.
Got your question here. Just go straight to the point.
Okay. You see, when I saw the governor of our neighboring community coming to the podium, I had thought he was coming to make political speeches, promising to build bridges where there are not rivers or valleys. But I was pleasantly disappointed.
What on you? My body was shaking like somebody with a kinogbe. A whole governor contracted Lassa fever. This Lassa fever is wicked, though. Lassa buru.
You see, Chief Adisa, I know it was touching, but let me finish answering the question, man. Doctor, as I was saying, Lassa fever is not a good thing, wallahi. How can a disease caused by common right, someone better, try to kill a whole governor? Hi, back here, it is not good.
Écoutez Lassa.
Okay, Chief. We can only pray God will help us, honestly.
You see, Doctor, I learned that Lassa fever has no respect of anyone, whoever, whatever you are. President self should be very, very careful.
That is true. That is very true. And that is why we all must collectively put our efforts and resources together to fight this monster called Lassa fever. Now, Chief Adisa, it is your turn. Tell me your experience.
Where do I start from? Did any one of you listen to the professor's speech?
The fearless professor. I listened to him.
What should he be afraid of at his age?
In fact, he it was who saved the life of the governor.
You see, I know that there is an important place we should spend our money, especially those of us who are in position of authority. Some of them will use several millions to take girlfriends to Dubai, to Spain, to Kinika on holiday. And Lassa fever will be killing and maiming people in their villages. Later, it is activities of witches and wizards. Or somebody will even say it is the sin of the people.
That was why I was raising the two both of my hands to answer my question.
Which of the question are you referring to?
The question I keep asking. What do we do with people who see these rats as a delicacy?
That is rather dangerous now and has to be stopped forthwith, honestly. Also, doctors and health workers generally must observe universal precaution when treating any patient.
Benny.
Just like everyone, we all must take precaution. When you feel unwell, go to the hospital. No self-medication, because early diagnosis of Lassa fever is easier to treat than when it is presented late to the hospital.
Benny, doctor. Atigbo.
Thank you very much for staying with us. You too can join the conversation. Tell us how well you think the nation has performed in the last 50 years in terms of handling Lassa fever. You can reach us through Twitter. The handle is at @NCDC.gov. You prefer to call? Then please reach us via a toll-free line. That's to say you don't pay when you call. The number is 0800 9700 0010. That is 0800 9700 0010. You can also reach us via WhatsApp. The number is 0708 711 0839. That is 0708 711 0839. We'll expect to hear from you. Thank you. Now, at the evening session of day one of the conference, Dr. Chikwe Ihekwazu, the Director General, Nigeria Center for Disease Control, in his welcome address said, infectious disease kill more in this part of the world than war. Hence, the need to rise to the challenges posed by Lassa fever in Nigeria.
If anything kills over 10 million people in this decade, it is most likely to be a highly infectious virus rather than a war. In a recent TED Talk, Bill Gates reminded the global community that we are not prepared for the next pandemic. And this is a narrative that we all have heard several times over. We seem to have an inertia to do the necessary preparatory work, the work that so urgently needs to be done. We have realized that we cannot afford to wait any longer. 50 years after the Lassa virus was first discovered in our country, we're marking this by rising to the challenge, recognizing it's better late than never. The increasing support and confidence in which our partners have placed in us gives us even more responsibility to lead and to direct the world, at least around this virus that was first found in Nigeria, for which we have the largest burden in the world, and we're really grateful for our partners that have made this happen, for the support of the Nigerian government for making this possible. Every life lost to Lassa fever in Nigeria is a huge loss to the country. This is why we're gathered here to talk about vaccine development, improved diagnostics and therapeutics, as well as social science strategies. We're here to learn and relearn. We're here to ensure that going forward, Nigeria and the global community will rise to the challenge that Lassa fever presents.
The keynote address of the conference was given by the foremost professor of virology in Nigeria and chairman, National Lassa Fever Steering Committee, Nigeria, Professor Oyewale Tomori. In words laden with emotions, Professor Tomori told the Lassa at 50 gathering that the last 50 years of Lassa fever in the country were that of sadness and horror.
Oh, Lassa fever, how we have neglected you for so long. Who would believe that this disease was first described in this country 50 years ago? Who would believe annually, with Lassa fever still turns us into national confusion? Do we know the true burden of the disease? Do we have any real verifiable data of the incidence of the disease? Can we tell when, where, and how it is coming? And when Lassa fever hits us, can our surveillance system detect that outbreak? So if surveillance system detects it, will our laboratories be able to consistently, rapidly give us results? And if we can we mount the right response 50 years after? How we handle Lassa fever in the last 50 years is really a dark journey into sorrow, into pain, and into regret. It's a 50 years of uncaring, of carefree, and of carelessness, of a careless nation. It is a story of criminal apathy and one of tormenting ignorance. Let's put a proper human face on the tragedy of Lassa fever so we can work to prevent in the future the repetition of these last 50 years. Let us touch our hearts and challenge ourselves to do things about Lassa fever so that we can chart a good cause for our country.
Speaking further, Oyewale Tomori expressed concern over the inability to eradicate Lassa fever in the country.
Over the years, we have grown so filthy as a nation. You remember we used to do this monthly environmental. We pile up refuse for 1 month. At the end of the month, we come and clean it up. And as we are clearing it, the vehicles are dropping the refuse back on the road again. And not only that, the day somebody has a wedding, maybe a top official, we cancel environmental. And so for 3 months, we have refuse occurring. Rats are not stupid. Why look for food when it is readily available in the bedroom of the housemaster? So they come in and we get infected, and then we start complaining that, see the refuse we have in our cities, in our different places. Rats will be very excited to live in these kind of places. So most of the transition has been rodent to human transmission. The human-to-human transition in healthcare settings is often nothing but carelessness. Your doctor is killing you, or you are killing your doctor with Lassa fever. You kill your loved ones because of the exposure that we have where we spread amongst ourselves. It should never happen. 50 years after Lassa fever, you know what we did? We did 4 things. We abandoned and neglected disease surveillance in this country. We ran our laboratory service on the ground. We expanded our cost of corrupt practices. And then we utterly disdained excellence and uplifted mediocrity. We expanded our pervasive corrupt policies, not just politically, so we blame the politicians, but those of us, even in the academic circle, we are responsible for some of the problems that's happening to us. In 2002, the federal government designated 3 health centers as centers for dealing with Lassa fever. Irua Specialist Hospital in Edo State, the UMTH in Maiduguri, and the FMC Owerri. Over 100 million was provided by the government But what happened? Only IRUA is existing today. We disdain and we respect our own talented human resources, preferring external experts. We created a toxic environment that makes novices out of our own local experts and our human resources. We have all it takes in this country to control diseases with minimal assistance, but we have refused to take all that we have.
Professor Tomori, however, called for attitudinal change among the stakeholders working around Lassa fever if the disease would be eradicated from Nigeria.
We conquered Ebola, but Lassa fever is making mincemeat out of us. So which way forward? My country is a country that will wait for the lion to finish yawning before running. Lassa is like the lion. Lassa is still yawning now. It's time for us to do our work. We are rising to the challenge. So Nigeria needs changes, attitudinal changes. We must eradicate our attitude before we can eradicate Lassa fever. Our definition of excellence. How do we see situations? How do we do things? We must never give up. We need one health action. We must work together. Everybody is not just one rule alone. We must not close our eyes to our national competing interests against Lassa control. We must open our ears, we must open our mouths to ensure national ownership of the Lassa fever control. We must be champion of good governance. We must see accountability in the operation and implementation of disease control in this country.
Professor Oyewale Tomori there, Chairman, National Lassa Fever Steering Committee, Nigeria. Well, now I have joining me Godwin Odemeje as usual in the Situation Room. Godwin, what do you make of the revelations at the Lassa at 50 conference?
Well, Abdul, it is like attempting to tell a story of 50 years event in a nutshell. But I must say the organization, scientific papers and speeches presented on the occasion depict one fact.
Which is?
We know where the issue pitches and we know what to do to solve the problem. But I was touched when the man who has seen it all, as far as Lassa fever is concerned in Nigeria, Professor Oyewale Tomori, became emotional. I was still trying to dissect the remark by Professor Tomori. Guess who came to the stage?
Who?
Governor Amakora of Nasarawa State.
Way back in 1990, my two sons showed symptoms of strange sickness, which was earlier diagnosed as typhoid fever, and were in hospital when on the fourth day, one of them, in a state of fit, was clenching his teeth as the doctors were battling and trying to administer some medication. As a father, to avoid my child from cutting his lips, intuitively I just went with my fingers to ensure that his teeth do not cut his tongue. And in the course of that, I got bitten on one of my fingers. It was a very slight cut with no blood, much blood, just a small tint of it. Unfortunately, that son of mine died that same day. The second son, who was on admission with him, was lucky to survive, but he survived with a lot of burden because either by the affliction of the disease or the medication, he developed profound sensory neural deafness. I can recall that 5 days after the death of my first son, I started feeling feverish and began to cough, had stomach ache, palpitation, headache. I also had difficulties breathing because my nose and throat and my chest were to me tight, which made my breathing abnormal and erratic. I even had seizures a couple of times. This state of hopelessness and trial by error or waiting for a miracle to happen went on for almost 2 weeks, when all medications could not give any relief to my condition. The doctors were in a frenzy and all forms of fever were diagnosed. Haze fever, I don't know the medical terms of some of them, yellow fever, and what have you, and were treated as such, but there was no significant improvement in my condition, in spite of the fact that I was in a teaching hospital, to be precise, Youth in Jos. In fact, now, as I reflect on the whole episode, the idea to associate and finally linked my symptoms to Lassa fever was my saving grace. And this was brought about by no other individual than the very humble and amiable Professor Oyewale Tomorin. That Professor Tomorin it was, who at that time, by divine intervention, he diagnosed me and insisted that I should be flown to a more sophisticated hospital where there would be special care for me as all medicine or medications fail.
You can see diseases have no respect for anyone. Another touching story, Abdul, is that of Dr. Isele.
They trained us. They gave us proper personal protective equipment. And everything was in the hand washings and all that. They were all observed. So I had no fears that anything could happen. That was it. I was admitted into the ward. And my colleague, they were called out to come and administer medications to me. And the most surprising of it all was the patient I just finished giving drugs was like, it looks like this is the doctor. They were asking, are you the one that just came in just now? Or are we seeing a ghost? And one thing that happened was that immediately I entered into the ward, I saw courage. I saw strength in the patients. They were more like, if a doctor can have it, that means there is hope for them in that they would come out of this illness. It is indeed a war. And I believe that the war against Lassa fever and viral hemorrhagic fever in general and infectious disease in general is more than that of Boko Haram. And I think the government should, in this way, look into having a special package for health workers, improving health facilities to see that we have a safe haven for those who have volunteered or who in one way are involved in treatment of patients.
These are those who have access to health facility. Imagine those in the villages where there are no health centers, no means of diagnosing these infections. I think this is the concern of Professor Oyewale Tomori and should be the concern of all.
Indeed, all hands must be on deck. Thank you very much, Godwin Odemide.
Thank you, Abdul.
And that's the size of the program NCDC Situation Room for today. We thank you very much for being a part of the program. We also hope you'll join us next week for more on Lassa Fever at 50 conference. If you want more explanation on what you've heard today or you just want to know about the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, reach us via Twitter. The handle is at NCDC.gov. You can reach us on WhatsApp. The number is 0708 711 0839. That is 0708 711 0839. We also have a toll-free line dedicated to you. It means when you call, you're not charged for calling. 0800 9700 0010. 0800 9700 0010. It's absolutely free. Please call us. Thank you very much. This program is a production of Gado Agency Limited under the sponsorship of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC. Visit their website to know more about the center. It's www.ncdc.gov.ng. The executive producer is Godwin Odemije. He also wrote the drama story. Mobolaji Ajani is the producer of the program. And I am Abdul Fattah Otori. Do have a wonderful evening. Bye for now.